Hey everybody, welcome back to the American Dream channel. So I got one for you, and I got one that kind of hits a little more closer to home for me because I've done a couple videos about some amazing people out there that, started from humble beginnings, had goals, had dreams in mind, and they had the drive to go for what they wanted. Now, that's an endless list of people out there. There's tons of them out there you can go over. I'm going to go over one today that's motivated me quite a bit and should motivate you when you hear this. So, real quick, I want to talk to you about a man by the name of Dwayne Douglas Johnson. Now, that is, to you, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, or for me and wrestling fans out there, The Rock. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was born May 2nd, 1972. Now, at that time, his father, Rocky Johnson, was one of the biggest wrestlers in the WWF. He was one of the biggest in the 70s. His father-in-law, which would be Rocky's mother's father, was a big wrestler. He was a Samoan. He wrestled in a group called the Wild Samoans. They were a tag team. And they were huge as well. So, real quick, I want to start out by saying, you think that by knowing his career path today, that his grandfather and his father being big into wrestling at that time and having big names, that it was going to be easy for him, that he had an easy path and he had a foot in the door. But I'm going to tell you right now, up until he got through high school and all that, he got into college, he wasn't into wrestling. Wrestling wasn't something he was going to do. In 1991, because he was big into football, 1991 he went to the University of Miami, the U, and he actually played for the Miami Hurricanes. Now, that 1 year in 91 he played for them is actually a year that they won one of their national championships. So, not only did he win a national championship in his 1 year playing in Miami for the Hurricanes, he actually got to play alongside Warren Sapp, NFL Hall of Famer. So, a couple pretty cool things there, knowing that it really didn't work out as far as his football career. But, he did graduate in 95, and he did continue football a little bit. He went up to Canada, and he played for the Calgary Stampede. 1 year, 95. That was it. It was this time that he kind of decided, okay, wrestling's in my family all my life. Why don't I give it a shot? So he ended up getting a shot in 1996. That's when he started getting into the WWF. And he got his shot. Now, it wasn't easy for him. He wasn't The Rock that we know and love who he would become. It wasn't The Rock that we know in these big movies, all these action-packed movies that he's, doing, the Fast and Furious series, all these Jumanji, all these movies. He wasn't in those movies. He wasn't that Rock yet. He was just young Rocky Johnson. They called him Rocky Maivia when he joined, but young Rocky Johnson or Rocky Maivia, whatever you want to call him, he was just a young man coming in, and they were giving him a chance. And he was also the first third-generation wrestler to wrestle for the WWF. So there was already a little storyline there, son of Rocky Johnson. So he had a little bit of a tall task, some shoes to fill, you could say, to live up to. So 1996, he was getting his feet wet. He was in a lot of undercard matches, not a lot of big ones. He was known as the son of Rocky Johnson, and his persona wasn't all that great. It wasn't as appealing as you would think. Now, if you're a big wrestling fan and you know what I'm talking about, then I don't have to explain nothing. If you're not and you're curious, go back and watch some of his early matches in 96 and see how he started. Look at his persona and look at what his niche was at the time, or lack thereof. So at this time, he's getting his feet wet. As 96 rolls on, Rocky Maivia, he's kind of, he's getting some matches under his belt, getting a little traction. So they actually put him up and they started to give him kind of a push. And in the wrestling world, a push basically means we're giving you a chance. We're going to put you out there in some big storylines and give you a chance to possibly win a title if you can win over the crowd and the audience and just kind of win everybody over, period, in general. So they gave him that chance. He ended up wrestling in the mid-card. He actually ended up winning a mid-card title at WrestleMania in 97. Now, this mid-card title, if you know wrestling, you know the IC title, the Intercontinental Championship. He won it against the wrestler named the Sultan. He beat him and he won it. Now, later on in 97, he had another match defending that against a wrestler by the name of Owen Hart. He actually beat Owen Hart and retained his title. And then later that year, 97 again, toward the end of the year, I believe it was in August, they ended up wrestling and Owen Hart beat him and won the title from him. So that was his first title. He had a little run with it. He defended it, and then he ended up losing it that same year. But that was big for him. So 97 ends, we roll into 98. So they put him together in a stable called the Nation of Domination. Now, basically a stable, if you're not a wrestling person, is basically just a group or a faction of multiple people together, and they usually give it a name. In this case, it was the Nation of Domination. It was Rocky Maivia and a wrestler by the name of Farouk, D'Lo Brown, and Kama. And Farouk was somewhat the leader of the group. He was the vocal piece. He kind of run the show. He was just the leader. It was his little gang. They followed him. And throughout 98, he started to kind of find his way. And that's why I want this to pertain and relate to you or myself when it comes to YouTube. So, again, go back and watch it. He didn't really have it all figured out. He didn't know what he wanted to do or how he wanted to act or what his thing was. Because in wrestling, all the big names out there, they have a thing. They have their style. They have their trademark. You know, their moves, their music, the way that they act, the way that they talk. And if you can find that, that's what helps you make it in that business. So as he's with the Nation of Domination, he starts to realize, I think I want to do it a certain way. And he starts to. So toward the end of 98, he's starting to have a little different attitude and a little different style. And he's starting to kind of grow in the crowd, as well as Vince McMahon, the owner of the company, and some more people backstage. You know, writers and people that help develop, you know, these wrestlers in the development department. You know, he's catching fire. So he actually starts to feud with the guys in the Nation of Domination. And eventually it breaks off. You know, he has a match with one of the guys because the feud explodes. And that was it. Now he's going solo on his own. But he's got his niche. Just like we're trying to find on this platform. What is our niche? And if you can find it, make it your own. Then just like Rocky, you'll get a chance. Go out on your own and make things happen because you've given everybody a reason to believe in you and say, okay, we like what you're doing. We like the route you're going. We like the path you're taking. And we see something in you. Run with it. Here's your opportunity. Now you got to run with it. So, like I said, he didn't have a foot in the door per se. He had an opportunity, maybe because of who his family was, but that was it. There's a lot of amazing, great Hall of Fame wrestlers out there who have children or multiple children that have tried to make in the business. And not only trying to live up to that filling the shoes metaphor, but they got their opportunity, but they couldn't find their niche. They couldn't find nothing to make them unique in their own. So there's lots of them out there. So just because you've had family in wrestling and a big name doesn't mean nothing. If you can't find your way on your own path, you won't make it in that business. So 98, he leaves the Nation of Domination. He's gaining traction from 98 all the way to 2004. He ran that show. To me, he ran it as number 2 because through that time frame, he ended up having some big matches. 3 of the biggest matches probably of his life against my favorite wrestler, and that's who I say was number 1 at that time, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, they had 2 matches at WrestleMania, and, you know, Rocky had already won the championship a few times, won it and lost it, and he had those 2 big matches with Stone Cold. Stone Cold won them. Now, WrestleMania is like the Super Bowl of WWE. That's the biggest. That's the show of the shows, they call it. That's what you want. You want to headline WrestleMania. If you've headlined WrestleMania, you've made it. Just like we say if we reach 10,000, 100,000, 2,000 subscribers. When we start hitting these, you know, these goals, these landmarks, we feel like we've made it. And we want to continue. So, basically, he loses those 2 matches to Stone Cold. They end up getting a 3rd match at a WrestleMania. Now, this was 2003. Now, Stone Cold Steve Austin had gotten hurt. So his career got cut short. This was going to be his last match, and everybody knew it. And everybody knew Rocky was going to win. He was going to beat Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship. And it was a great match. One of my favorite matches. Rocky won that match. And a big thing most people don't know unless you're a wrestling fan. After he pinned him 1, 2, 3, he leaned over and whispered in Stone Cold's ear, "Thank you." Because Stone Cold Steve Austin wanted him to win that match. He wanted that to be his last match with The Rock because he respected him so much. Great moment. Lots of great moments in wrestling because these people are like family. You know, they're with each other so much. They motivate each other so much. So when you get to be with somebody that you respect that much, who know also found their niche, their own path, and they get to give you your moment, it's awesome. It's awesome. It was an awesome moment. As a wrestling fan, I absolutely loved it. So, like I said, that was 03. We didn't know that going into 04 that Rocky was going to finally say, you know, I want to make a new route in my life. I want to take a new path, which we know what that was. He had already been in, you know, small roles in some TV shows. He had been in some movies, but he still wrestled. That was his main thing. But end of 04, we would say goodbye to Rocky as, you know, a full-time wrestler. So he left, went on to become what he is today. All these Hollywood movies, all these big action movies and roles. He was in them. He was one of the top paid actors. Right now, he's probably one of the top paid entertainers out there, period. That's him. He's got the XFL thing going on. I mean, he's doing great. He's doing great. He found his way. He eventually did make a return back to WWE from 2011 to 2013. From 2011 to 2013, he ran a feud with John Cena where he actually ended up feuding with him. It culminated at WrestleMania. He beat John Cena for the title, but it actually continued this feud all the way till next year, which will be 2013, where it culminated again at WrestleMania and Cena beat him. But it was a 2-year run of a feud that everybody loved. It was perfect timing. He came back, you know, it didn't wear off. He came back, people loved it, and just as fast as he came back, it seemed like he was gone again. He still makes appearances on WWE TV, and he's still doing his Hollywood thing. I don't see him slowing down at all. But just remember, what he did was he didn't give up, and he searched deep within himself to find, what am I good at? What's going to single me out from everybody else? What's going to help me grow, be unique, and make my dreams come true? So that's what it's all about, everybody. Find your thing. Don't let nobody hold you back, and go for it. Go for something big like Rocky did. Now, I know we can't say, hey, I don't think we'll ever be as big as he is, but you don't know. You could be. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid. Go for it. American Dream Channel. Like and subscribe. And remember, dream big.